Clemson Hotline is on the air, a one-hour talk show giving Clemson fans a power hour of Tiger sports talk. Clemson Hotline is presented by y'all.com and brought to you by Amtrak. Clemson Hotline is direct from Tiger Country on the network of radio stations across the great state of South Carolina. And as always, a podcast edition of our show is available for download in iTunes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back in. The bye week is past. The Clemson Tigers now move on into a big game, a big week, of course, taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies in Death Valley. Thus the shirt today, Death Valley. That's right, the original Death Valley, the first Death Valley, not Death Valley East, the Death Valley. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm not sure if everything is running perfectly well live on Vocal. They didn't run the typical commercial at the beginning. They've been changing some things up. The viewers seem to be really low right now, so I don't know if something's going on, but that's all right. You can tune in on the front page at tigernet.com or on vocal.com and watch the program. We'd love to talk with you about your Clemson Tigers. Big week. Bye week has passed. Oddly enough, Clemson moves down after a victory against Georgia Tech, but they move up in the bye week because of the way things shook out. We'll talk about that, and the first round of BCS rankings are out. Stay with us here on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
Want to hear the sound of hassle-free traveling?
All aboard!
Amtrak takes the hassle out of traveling to over 500 destinations. You can stretch out in a spacious seat, relax in a sleeping car, and enjoy a hot meal in the dining car. And for those who want to kick back and take in the scenery, go right ahead. For everything you get on Amtrak, the one thing you won't get is this. So whether you're going to a family reunion or an away game, make it a whole lot nicer on Amtrak. Book your trip today at Amtrak.com or call 1-800-USA-RAIL.
All aboard!
Ladies, how many pounds have you gained since you turned 40? If you're like most women, probably 10 or more. But hundreds of thousands of women have discovered the secret to losing weight after 40. It's called Amberen, and it's the only product on the market today clinically proven to cause sustained weight loss for women over 40. With no special diets or exercise programs, you can try Amberen absolutely risk-free and get a 1-month supply free by calling 1-800-685-0205. The leading cause of weight gain in women over 40 is hormonal imbalance. Until you balance your hormones, losing weight can be practically impossible. Amberen balances hormones naturally, so the extra weight can fall right off. Yes, even that stubborn tummy fat. Plus, Amberen relieves other symptoms of hormonal imbalance, like hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, sleeplessness, and more. Be one of the first 50 callers right now, and they'll send you a complimentary risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Free supplies are limited, so call now. 1-800-685-0205. That's 1-800-685-0205.
G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the number one cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
Clemson Tigers, we coming for you.
Yeah. That's how we do it, baby. It's a tailgate party. Y'all better come on. It's going down.
We about to back it on up in the park.
Welcome back into the program. I have no idea what's going on with Vocal. It didn't give me the ad at the beginning. I apologize to everybody who's normally in the chat room waiting for the show. In fact, when I went to the front page of Vocal, you know, we've talked in the past about the competition there at the top, and I've got a good feeling Mertz is definitely going to be moving into the lead eventually within the next couple of weeks or so, I would imagine, at the way things are going right now. But all in all, it didn't give me the ad. I didn't have any viewers. We weren't on the front page. And oddly enough, my picture wasn't even on the front page anymore. Now, I don't know what was going on with that, but we're back. We're with you. You missed the opening segment. We told you we were going to talk a little bit about the BCS polls plus the AP and the coaches poll that came out. And I think we'll start with the BCS polls because this has been the most, I guess this is the most opinionated aspect of my belief on college football. And it's been that this BCS, as much as people say it gave us great matchups and 1 versus 2 every year, I have been against it from the start, from the get-go. I have never sat back and said, you know what, the BCS is the perfect system. Because ESPN and anybody else involved with college football, especially ESPN, has so much influence in it. But as soon as teams begin to lose, they have to start hawking you this theory that every one-loss team still has a chance to be in the mix. And there's a serious problem with that belief because all one-loss teams aren't always in the mix. And if you have to sell people on that mid-season, and we may not get there this year, but typically what ends up happening is 4, 5, 6 people begin to, or 6 teams, I should say, begin to lose games, and then it trickles down to 4 and 3 and 2 and 1, and then you've got this, okay, you're trying to look at it objectively, but you've got this main talking head ESPN out there who's telling you what you should believe. Right now, the BCS standings as they sit, Alabama 1, Florida 2. Let me say that to you again. Alabama 1, Florida 2. And Florida is number 1 right now in the computer rankings. Now, I don't know about you, but let's talk about Florida. 27-14 over Bowling Green. 20-17 at Texas A&M, a team that barely escaped Louisiana Tech. 37-20 over a Tennessee team that I don't think people really believe in. That was on the road. 38-0 over a terrible Kentucky team. 14-6 over LSU. That's their best win. And then 31-17 over Vandy. Where is the number 1 team in the country based on the computers out of that? What has Florida done to deserve number 1 in the country? Anybody? I didn't think so. And this show is Clemson Hotline, and we love talking about your Clemson Tigers, but it is atrocious when I look at this that Florida is the number 1 team in the nation in the computer polls. Now, in the BCS, they are 2. Alabama, I think you could give number 1. I think Oregon is definitely the number 2 team in the country right now based on what we've seen. Kansas State comes in at 4. Notre Dame at 5. Notre Dame, really? I mean, after, you know, and that's the other thing that bugs me a little bit about it, is you have to look at it with what you saw. And what I saw was Stanford score a touchdown. LSU comes in at 6 after their victory over South Carolina. The Gamecocks at 7 Oregon State at 8, Oklahoma at 9, and Southern Cal rounds out the top 10. Now, other schools of note from the SEC and the ACC in the initial top 25 BCS rankings. Georgia at 11, Mississippi State at 12, Florida State at 14, and Clemson at number 19. It is a sad state in college football, and I'm glad we're changing the system. Because for me, I also stand by the people who say maybe polls shouldn't be released until later in the year, and that might have boosted Florida up to where they are now. But for Florida to be the number 2 team, that's the one glaring thing that really jumps off the page at me right now. And if you're telling me that Texas Tech, who beat West Virginia, this is where it really gets you, who beat West Virginia like a rented mule, is 4 spots behind West Virginia right now in this BCS, I just don't get it. I honestly don't. Tommy in the chat room says BCS means nothing to him. And I don't blame him. And I don't blame anybody else that doesn't buy in. And I'm glad that we're finally getting rid of it. But when I look at the top 2, and they're the SEC again, and everybody's so sick and tired of it. Everybody is so sick and tired of it. And the thing that happens is what you're hearing some people who are willing to step out against the BCS and against the SEC say it. You know, they start at the top, and all they do is swap spots. South Carolina and LSU, and then LSU jumps up, South Carolina drops to 9, Florida moves into the 3 spot in the polls. It's just a rotating system of teams beating each other, and nobody gets penalized. Other schools, Clemson takes a hit on the road at Florida State, who was ranked very high at the time, but there's no forgiveness for Clemson. Florida State, then we know what happened at NC State on the road, a venue that's given the Seminoles a tough time for a long time, but Clemson still punished because of that. But if you're in the SEC and you lose, well, it's a great conference. And I'm not denying the fact that there are very good teams. I am not denying the fact that there are very good teams out there. No, and I agree. I do think West Virginia would probably beat Texas Tech 9 out of 10 times. They probably would. But you know what? The one time they had a chance this year, they didn't even come close. They weren't even on the field. They got smoked. They got orange bowled. Can we say that here on the program? And I know for Clemson fans out there, it felt pretty good to watch somebody just whip West Virginia. And, you know, the West Virginia fans came after me on Twitter a little bit yesterday. We're at Clemson Sports on Twitter. I didn't think we were too harsh. We're just telling it like it was. They were getting a beat down. And I don't care what happened to me in the past. That was what was happening at the time. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Coach Dabo Sweeney of the Clemson Tigers, and you're listening to the Clemson Hotline on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network.
We're rolling along here on the program. Appreciate you all being with us here on the Clemson Hotline. Got to put it back out on Twitter. As I mentioned earlier, there were a couple of little mistakes at the beginning with vocal, and I'm not sure what was going on, but I think we've got it all squared away. We're going to pop that back out on Twitter for all the fans who like to tune into the program. The chat room's rolling again as usual. The guys there do an excellent job keeping us on schedule, keeping us in tune. And, you know, I think Nathan makes a great point. He says he doesn't have a problem with Clemson being ranked number 19. Name one good team Clemson's beaten. I'll agree in that regard. There really has not been a great team that Clemson's beaten. The one opportunity they had against Florida State, they let them off the hook. But you look at Florida, again, I go back to Florida, Bowling Green, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Kentucky, LSU, Vanderbilt. LSU's the one game that I think you could say they beat somebody who we perceive to be good. But where does the perception come from? From the SEC, from ESPN. Anyway, let's move on a little bit. Unlike last week when Clemson defeated a team and fell in the polls, this week in the AP poll, Clemson sat idly by and moved up 2 spots to number 14. In the coaches poll, your Tigers sit at number 13. Now, coming out of a bye week, I hope everybody's refreshed. I know I certainly am. The voice had a chance to rest. I took the week off from TigerNet Talk, which broadcasts live on Wednesday evenings. Looking forward to that. We'll have our prediction on the Virginia Tech game and, of course, the PS3 prediction as well. Now, I can tell you this. There were a ton of points scored as we look back at that Georgia Tech game. This 2 weekends ago now, I guess, technically, there were a ton of points scored. Clemson put up 47 against the Yellow Jackets. That's actually the most points Clemson has scored against Georgia Tech in school history. The last time Clemson scored anywhere close to that was in 1983 when they scored 41 points at home, I should say, against Georgia Tech. There was a couple of big scoring games over there. The Woody Dantzler game in overtime at Georgia Tech was a big one, I believe 47-44. But at home, that was the highest point total Clemson had ever put on the Yellow Jackets. Also, these two teams, Clemson and Georgia Tech, combined for 1,084 yards of total offense in that game, the second most in Clemson's history for total yardage. 601 yards total for Clemson's offense. I don't think I gave them enough credit on last week's show. You know, I think I kind of harped on the defense stepping up at the end of that game, really being the difference maker in a game that looked like it could have gone back and forth. Give the offense a ton of credit, though. 601 total yards. That's the 8th best offensive performance in Clemson history as far as yardage goes. Also, the record in that, 1981, when Clemson beat the Heels off of Wake Forest, 82-24. There was 1,107 yards in that game. Clemson accounted for 756. Wake Forest getting smacked, put up 351 because they had the ball a ton in that game. Clemson is now 9-0 in games where they total at least 600 yards of total offense. 61-0-1 where they total at least 500 yards of total offense. And 60-0-1 when they total 200 yards passing and 200 yards rushing. So you can go balance for 400 and pretty much win every time, 500 and 600. That's one of those stats, though, like people tell me all the time. You know, Clemson's undefeated on the third Wednesday in July because they've never played a game on that day. They're still undefeated. You know, that's one of those stats like that. But how about this one? Clemson is 17-0 with Dabo Swinney as the head coach when they wear orange jerseys and white pants. And I'm pretty sure that Clemson is undefeated all time when they've worn purple on orange or orange on purple, which is a combination a lot of people hate, but I'm almost 100% positive on that. I can't remember ever losing wearing those uniforms. And give Dabo Swinney a lot of credit. As we head into this game, which will give Clemson an opportunity to tie the Memorial Stadium record for wins. Right now, Clemson comes in with 10 in a row. A chance to win the 11th straight game at home is a big deal for Clemson Tiger Nation right now. But Dabo Swinney's brought Clemson back. He is 23-4 in Death Valley. 23-4. That's 85%. That's better than Tommy Bowden. That's better than Danny Ford right now. Getting a team at home in Death Valley, and yes, I am wearing the shirt proudly. I think you should rock it. The original Death Valley. That's right. When I was growing up, LSU was Death Valley. Deaf, D-E-A-F. That's what it was known as. There was no questioning that fact. And even last night after the game, Les Miles tried to throw his little jab in there, and I know it felt good. I know it felt good watching the Gamecocks go down, and their fans think that you live vicariously through their losses now. But you know what? I don't. I could care less what happens. The big deal is, in fact, I would have rather them run the table and come into Clemson and let me be the guy that punches them in the mouth. I would have taken that scenario as well. But anytime these guys start to chirping, and they've had 3 years of chirp, 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 chirp. Every time you turn around, every time you say something or run into them, they want to say something to you about Clemson, and you're not going to handle them. You can't do this. You can't do that. You know what? The fact of the matter is this. They never want to live in the past, but all they want to talk about is the past 3 years. They never want to talk about what happened before that. So you can't have it both ways. Ultimately, Ultimately, I wouldn't trade this orange for any of their stuff if they win 15 consecutive national titles. I would never put on the garnet and black, and I don't care how good they ever become, they will not be this team, Clemson. That's it. They just won't be. They won't be. We've owned them for years. And at least Dabo Swinney's now getting Clemson back to the old days. The last team, though, to beat Clemson at home, that's right, South Carolina back at the end of the 2010 season. The record for consecutive home wins is 11. It was set on 2 occasions. From 1937 to 1942 under Jess Neely and Frank Howard, two coaching tenures split there. It started with a 46-0 victory over Presbyterian September the 18th, 1937. It ended with a 7-0 loss to George Washington on November 7th, 1942. And I got to tell you, people, there was no excuse for that loss. No excuse for that loss to George Washington. They're not even listed in the ESPN College Football Encyclopedia. George Washington finished that year 3-6, Frank. Come on, Coach Howard. Their only other wins were over a school called McDaniel, who nobody's ever heard of, in Richmond. The final 7 games only scored 15 points, but 7 of them were against Clemson, and they kept us out of the end zone. I'm still frustrated about that loss. Snap that 11-game home winning streak. That's frustration. I can't believe Frank Howard let that happen. There's probably somebody in the stands still holding on to that loss. Some really old man who remembers the day that went down. Disappointment pouring out of Death Valley, November 7th, 1942. I guess that technically would have been played over at Riggs Field. But you get where I'm going with that. Also, Clemson had an 11-game winning streak in 1989 to 1991. It started with a 30-10 win over NC State and ended with a 20-20 tie to Virginia in October of 1991, which, of course, led to Virginia's first victory over the Clemson Tigers the next year. We finally let the Cavaliers beat us. Finally let the Cavaliers beat us. Anyway, Clemson did go on to win 4 more games after that before suffering a loss. So there was a 16-game unbeaten streak, but just an 11-game home winning streak. There was also a 25-game unbeaten streak from 1980 to 1984, but there were some ties in there. I think a Boston College tie, maybe one other tie involved. But finally getting it back to being Death Valley is critical. And when you look at the remaining games for this Clemson team, having those road games at Wake, at Duke, and knowing that every other game is played at home, you have an excellent opportunity to climb in those BCS rankings, to climb in those national rankings, because some people are going to be running into one another, and eventually you will gain that respect if you can get through this schedule. And Clemson has been unbelievable at home in these 10 ball games, in these 10 consecutive wins at home. Clemson scored at least 31 points in 10 games and at least 35 in 9 out of the 10 games. And you guys know what that means. Anytime the Clemson Tigers score 28 points or more, it's bow time. You can head out to Bojangles, I believe, now and trade in those tickets. Although it was pretty good when you got to go to Taco Bell. It was pretty good. Taco Bell was the place to be. Clemson fans pouring into Bojangles for 10 straight times. Bojangles is probably trying to find a way out of that, or at least up that sponsorship or the deal to 35 points. 28 points gets plowed through by Coach Chad Morris. They're probably going to go out of business any day now, giving away all that free chicken. And finally, Clemson has averaged 41.7 points per game in the 10 contests and given up 24.5 for an average margin of victory of 17.2 points per game at home. Clemson a heavy favorite this weekend coming in against Virginia Tech. I'm not surprised, but to say the least, 10 points is a pretty big margin in my mind right now. Clemson has averaged 510 yards per game of total offense over those 10 home games and has gained at least 443 yards of total offense. Woo! Tickets are at a premium. The Valley should be rocking. It's time for Clemson fans to stand up at home and make that place as daunting as it once was, back during the days of these greats that we're listening to right now. Stay with us, though, more. TigerNet Talk, or should I say Clemson Hotline. I skipped TigerNet Talk this week. It's throwing me off. This is the Clemson Hotline on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network. Stay with us.
Everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981.
Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444 or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/Seasons by the Lake. I hope to see you on the terrace.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2.
Musicians, rock that Halloween party. Frighten your neighbor's kids. Get the gear you need to set a scary mood during Guitar Center's Rocktober Savings Event. 10 days of unnatural extreme savings throughout the store. Huge discounts on black lights, lasers, strobes, and more. Buy a fog machine for $39, get the fluid free. Plus battery-powered mini strobe lights, $5. AKG stereo headphones, $19. And half off all Vic Firth drumsticks. Make Guitar Center your Halloween headquarters for gear during Rocktober. Now through October 28th.
Some nights I can't get to sleep. Some nights I can't stay asleep. With Unisom, I can do both.
Unisom sleep tabs are clinically proven to help you fall asleep 33% faster and keep you asleep longer, so you get a more restful night's sleep. Made with an ingredient not found in other leading sleep aids, Unisom sleep tabs are safe and non-habit forming. Just one pill takes the uncertainty out of bedtime, giving you the sleep you need.
So I wake up ready to go.
Unisom sleep tabs. Fall asleep faster. Sleep longer.
If occasional digestive issues are making you feel twisted up, count on Digestive Advantage from Schiff. Its advanced probiotic survives to deliver good bacteria where you need it for healthy digestion. Take the Digestive Advantage 14-Day Challenge with a money-back guarantee. Go to digestiveadvantage.com for details. The probiotic that survives. That's the Digestive Advantage. Take the 14-Day Challenge at digestiveadvantage.com.
Are you a landowner who owns more than 10 acres that's interested in selling timber or pulpwood off your property? Cross Creek Timber is a full-service timber procurement company that buys standing saw timber and pulpwood. They're staffed with professional licensed foresters and fully insured with both workers' comp and general liability insurance. Let Cross Creek Timber develop the appropriate harvesting plan for your property and answer any questions regarding forest management. Call today, 864-517-3620. That's 864-517-3620 for your free woodland evaluation, or visit www.crosscreektimber.com.
Hey, sports fans, listen up. If you're a fan of the Gamecocks, the Citadel Bulldogs, or you just simply get chills from the Tigers running down the hill, then CRM Sports has a weekly show just for you. Even if Cocky and the Tiger make your blood boil, then just tune in for a good laugh. Each week, Gamecock fans hear the CRM Sports show Carolina Crowline broadcasting live from downtown Columbia. And Clemson fans enjoy the Clemson Hotline broadcasting live just miles away from their beloved Death Valley. It's fun, independent, objective, and informative talk about your favorite college team. To listen to the various CRM Sports Collegiate Sports Talk podcasts, visit iTunes and search for CRM Sports, and the action-packed shows will be just a free click away. CRM Sports. Check them out in iTunes and get all the inside info on your favorite Southern team. CRM Sports. We know Southern sports.
And I'll say this, and finally wrap it up a little bit about Clemson's ranking in the BCS, because I didn't expect them to be in the top 10, to be honest with you. There are only 2 teams on Clemson's schedules right now that they have beaten who have one team that they've beaten that has a winning record. That's Ball State. Everybody else has a losing record, and you lost to a Florida State team that really had some potential to have a good season. And they may end up winning out right now, but you never can tell. That team, you never know who's going to show up. I've said it all along. The most important 6 inches at Florida State resides between the ears of E.J. Manuel. That kid is a basket case at times and can cost you a game. And you can see where the pressure, you look at a guy like Connor Shaw at South Carolina, who you could argue may not be the best quarterback in college football easily. In fact, I was taken aback when somebody actually mentioned him for the Heisman Trophy before this game at LSU. You talk about hype machines. ESPN, one of their college football programs, was talking about he was number 4. He's not even the best guy on their offense. He's not even the best guy on their team. Jadeveon Clowney's the best player on their team far and away. And the only kid at that school, I'm not even kidding you. Don't even try to sell me on Lattimore. I'll take Ellington. Lattimore's good, but I'll take Ellington. But that's the only kid. If they said, hey, you know what, we don't really need this guy anymore, you want him, I would take him. He's a beast. Welcome in, Chris. Appreciate you checking in the chat room. If you're listening to us, come on in. Come on in the chat room. The water is fine. The guys in there, they'll treat you good. It's a great group. They keep the chat room rolling. They tell me what a numbskull I am from time to time. I can live with that. They come back, though. They're good guys. Hashtag TN Talk. You can call us 803-450-0086. Big things going on here for ClemsonSportsTalk.com, and I can't wait to tell you more about it later. But we've got a lot cooking, really trying to get some more great guests on the program. I'll tell you who I'm working on. I've been trying to keep it under wraps, but maybe you guys can help me out a little bit because he's hard to get a hold of. I've been really working hard. Brian Dawkins. That's who I'm working on. I told you guys a few weeks ago, that's who I'm going after. I hope we can get him on board. I think Brian would be an unbelievable interview, and arguably, no, not even arguably, he is the best Clemson player to ever play professionally. That guy is straight. He is disgusting. And I really hope that we can get him on to talk about his time at Clemson and his playing days in the NFL. Well, Virginia Tech comes into this game against Clemson reeling, really. And even though they outscored Duke 41-0 to close out that game, they trailed the Blue Devils 20-0. And Duke has had a good season so far. Duke doesn't have anything to be ashamed about at this point.
Certainly Duke is Duke. They're on TV more than Leave It to Beaver reruns.
Pete Gillen with his certainly Duke is Duke take from back in the day talking Duke basketball. But Duke football, 5-2, 2-1 in the ACC right now. They played a good game and had an opportunity against Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech closed them out late in that game. But at no point was I ever impressed with this Virginia Tech team. They're 4-3, 2-1 in conference play. Your Tigers are 5-1 headed into this game. Clemson's had an advantage in the series, and as of late, finally last year, Clemson got over the hump. It had been since 1989 since Clemson had defeated Virginia Tech until last season on the road. Your number 13 Tigers beat the number 10 ranked Hokies in a game that really, I think, put Clemson on the national stage, put Clemson in the national mix, made people realize this Clemson team is not just a soft offense. They were powerful. They attacked. They out-hustled. They out-muscled. They made plays that Virginia Tech wasn't making. Clemson was the team that was creating turnovers and not forcing themselves into turnovers. Mike Bellamy's 31-yard run gave the dead leg to the Virginia Tech defender, put the icing on the cake. Clemson stomped Virginia Tech in the first meeting last year. They got a chance to get it going again. They came back around. Actually, that was a 23-3 victory in Blacksburg. They got back together in Charlotte. ACC championship. Clemson. Hammer time. Scoring 28 points in 17 minutes in the second half. It was a 10-10 game at the half. Virginia Tech fans still feeling like they were in it, and it turned into a Clemson Tigers celebration of the ages. If you weren't there, look, there have certainly been some great games played in my lifetime, the national championship being one. But seeing as I was a 4-year-old and watching the game on TV, I don't exactly know what it was like in that stadium the moment you knew you were going to defeat the Nebraska Cornhuskers 22-15. When that moment hit you that you were going to be the national champs the next day, I can only imagine what the celebration felt like. But for Clemson to finally get back and win their first Atlantic Coast title since 1991, it felt like one of those moments in the stadium there in Charlotte, in Bank of America Stadium. It was like, we're back. We have finally made our resurgence. We are back in the mix. And Sammy Watkins with that double pump move, the beautiful route, and the fact that you knew that 53-yard touchdown catch, the fact that you knew this kid was a freshman, that he was going to be an impactful player for years to come, that you had an offense that was clicking. You were going into the bowl game, the Orange Bowl. Orange is on the field. Virginia Tech fans gone. That's a game, it's still on the DVR. That's a game you don't delete. The only way you get rid of that is if the hard drive crashes on your DVR. There are games you hold on to for a lifetime. There are games you are thankful for a guy like Tiger Ray who puts them up on YouTube. That is one of them. The number 3 ranked Virginia Tech Hokies, after you beat them earlier in the season, you beat them 38-10, you smack them down in those 2 games by a combined score of 61-13, and you show the Atlantic Coast Conference that Clemson is back. That Clemson is back in the mix in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And then you come into this year, you've got the opportunity. You know it's going to be a tough game on the road at Florida State every other year. You go down to Florida State, you come up a little bit short. But then, because of E.J. Manuel, I'm telling you, you got a real shot to get back into it. You have a real shot to get back into it. Clemson was able to shut down Virginia Tech's offense last year with some very talented running backs. This year, they've got some very young guys and plenty of opportunity for your Clemson Tigers to take control of this game early if we're lucky, especially at home. Stay with us here. More Clemson Hotline right after this. Welcome back into the Clemson Hotline. I'm your host, Lawton Swann. Glad to be here with you. I want to tell you about our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Also, follow us on Twitter. We're at Clemson Sports. Don't ask me how that handle wasn't taken. For years, we were at Clemson Podcasts, but, you know, we changed it up a little bit, moving more towards the radio side of things, kind of trying to diversify a little bit, let people know who we are. I gave out so many cards to people for years. They go, I don't even know what a podcast is, Sonny. I don't know how do you get a podcast? I said, what can I do to help people feel more comfortable with it? Because one thing you can clearly do is just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com, and then you can watch some of the old shows on YouTube through our YouTube channel. You can listen to some of our old interviews, maybe when we've been on. You can listen to interviews with guys like Joe Bostic. Perhaps you want to hear from Bomani Jones or Mark Packer or Woodrow Dantzler, Daquan Bowers. I don't know what your flavor is. I'm not sure what you're wanting to hear, but I can tell you we've got all that stuff archived on the site, and we will continue to do so. But for Clemson University or for the athletic department not to have had Clemson sports, I could not believe it. And I really wanted to have Clemson Sports Talk, but it was too long of a handle, so I shortened it to Clemson Sports. What do you know? It was available. We got lots of guys in the chat room. They're talking about whether they should attend games because maybe they're the jinx. Maybe they've attended some big ball games in the past and caused Clemson to fall on their face. That happens. I think we've all been there. We all got that feeling. I've told my sob story here about Clemson in Connecticut in the NCAA tournament. I know what it feels like to be that guy. But let me tell you what you can do if you don't want to go to the game because you're a little bit superstitious. Let me tell you about Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant. Every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away. That's right. 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games, noon to midnight for those evening kickoffs. You can go there and hang out with other Clemson Tiger fans, enjoy a big screen TV, Bloody Mary, mimosa bar, specialty drinks, a great tailgating menu as well, all provided at Seasons Terrace. For more information, 656-7444, or go to facebook.com/seasonsbythelake. That's good stuff. You can go and not jinx Clemson and still enjoy the game with other Clemson people. Yes, Mark Packer is a big San Francisco Giants fan. I actually have that game on right now. I will not give the score because I don't want to ruin it for all you folks who DVR baseball. I will say that's the only way to watch baseball, and it only happens to be on in here because I don't really feel like changing the channel right now, and it just happened to still be on Fox because of the football that was on earlier. Anyhow, let's move on. Robert Nkemdiche. An interesting article was written earlier today by Greg Wallace. Greg does a great job covering the Clemson Tigers for the Anderson Independent Mail. Love his work. Comes on the program a good bit. And really appreciate the time that he spends to come on board with us to give you some of his insights into what he's seeing and hearing around this Clemson Tiger program. Now, he caught a lot of flack from people in the past, especially when tweeting out that perhaps Robert Nkemdiche, when he brought up the idea that Nkemdiche, the number one recruit in America, the number one defensive end in the country, could eventually reconsider his commitment. He says some people stopped following on Twitter. Some people called him a gamecock, this, that, and the other. Is there anything worse than calling someone a gamecock, to be honest with you? Anyway, he took a big hit from people about that, and then he put out this article just today about Robert Nkemdiche's recruiting saga. You know, you've got the fact that his mom, in an article with ESPN, the magazine, basically said that she felt like he was pressured to make his decision. But you also have heard from him that it was his decision to make, that he was comfortable with it, that there was no pressure put on him. Now, his brother, Denzel, plays at Ole Miss. He's been to a ton of Ole Miss games. And there are people who come and tweet at me. They say, what do you think? What are your thoughts on Robert Nkemdiche? And I put it out there, and I really believe this. Until the words come out of Robert Nkemdiche's mouth that he is not committed to Clemson University, I don't care what the Atlanta Journal-Constitution writes. I don't care what ESPN, the magazine, writes. Quite frankly, I don't care what anybody out there tells you. Until the words from Robert Nkemdiche come out, I am no longer a verbal commitment to Clemson. I cannot, even Nkemdiche's brother, Denzel, in the article on orangeandwhite.com, Greg points out, his brother says that he would not even be surprised if Robert flips. That he's not going to be surprised when it happens, basically. I'm not going to be surprised when he flips, Denzel told SBNation.com. Well, I think there's a whole lot of people that would be surprised, Denzel, and I think Robert probably would be surprised. And even though we've seen pictures of him on Twitter in an Ole Miss uniform at these games, I don't think you really have that big of a choice of where to go if you're in Nkemdiche's situation. His mom's in Africa, his dad Sunday is in Atlanta, is a doctor in Atlanta. If his dad wants to go see his brother and Robert can't find a way up to Clemson, what's the big deal? It doesn't bother me at all that this guy's going to Ole Miss. If Ole Miss gets the number one recruit in America over Clemson, hey, good luck in the SEC West. And you can knock the Atlantic Coast Conference. Everybody that's out there tries to. They always knock the Atlantic Coast Conference. There's one thing that Clemson offers Robert Nkemdiche that a lot of those SEC schools cannot, and that is, honestly, a quality education right now. a program in Clemson is we may not win the national championship, which is obviously the ultimate goal, but these kids are getting a good education, and they're being coached by a stand-up guy who doesn't throw their players under the bus like some other coaches that are out there. Let's just, let's say it for what it is. Dabo Swinney is a good recruiter because kids believe in him, because he stands up for his players. And you can call him a rah-rah guy. You can say he's shaking his pom-poms, trying to get everybody, involved and all in and all these, little things that we're doing. But players really like it. He is a player's coach. And he's getting the coaches around him to make this a better ball club. And until the words are said by Robert Nkemdiche, I am no longer committed to Clemson, anytime you ask me what are my thoughts on Robert Nkemdiche, he's all in. He's got his boys involved, coming to Clemson. I don't see that switching. I think Wayne Gallman sees the opportunity that he'll have on campus. He's constantly in his ear. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, if you gave me the opportunity coming out of high school to go play with my brother, well, I don't have a brother, but if you gave me that opportunity to play with this so-called brother, or my friends, I'm going with my friends every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And I don't care how much better I am than them or how much better I believe the SEC may be over the ACC. If they're going to Clemson and I like Clemson, that's where I'm going. We'll be right back. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
Ladies, how many pounds have you gained since you turned 40? If you're like most women, probably 10 or more. But hundreds of thousands of women have discovered the secret to losing weight after 40. It's called Amberin, and it's the only product on the market today clinically proven to cause sustained weight loss for women over 40 with no special diets or exercise programs. You can try Amberin absolutely risk-free and get a 1-month supply free by calling 1-800-685-0205. The leading cause of weight gain in women over 40 is hormonal imbalance. Until you balance your hormones, losing weight can be practically impossible. Amberin balances hormones naturally, so the extra weight can fall right off. Yes, even that stubborn tummy fat. Plus, Amberin relieves other symptoms of hormonal imbalance, like hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, sleeplessness, and more. Be one of the first 50 callers right now, and they'll send you a complimentary risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Free supplies are limited, so call now. 1-800-685-0205. That's 1-800-685-0205.
Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the number one cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
Back we are here on the Clemson Hotline. I'm your host, Lawton Swann. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Tune in for TigerNet Talk, prediction, the Xbox prediction, all that, more insight on this ball game against Virginia Tech. A whole lot of goodness, and we'd love to hear from you. Matter of fact, if you go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com, over on the right-hand side of the page, you'll see a thing that says send voicemail. Click that. It's a beautiful way for you to be a part of the program. You can do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I do appreciate you all being here with us. Well. Bad news for the Virginia Tech Hokies as their starting center, Andrew Miller, is out for the season. Miller suffered an ankle injury to his left ankle in the 41-20 victory over Duke this past weekend. The school announced he was the only veteran offensive lineman on this team last year. They had to replace all four guys up front, so now they lose their anchor really coming into this game at Clemson. As a matter of fact, as you know, if you follow us on Twitter, we constantly put out Clemson news, notes, and information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Somebody asked me, they said, do you really stay up that late to put stuff out? They're like, you're posting on my Facebook wall and on Twitter at 3 a.m. No, we have it set up to aggregate that stuff and put it out, so it does come out quite frequently. If it's too much, let us know. We can slow it down a little bit. But that's a big issue for the Virginia Tech Hokies. He's a 2-year starter and a Remington Award candidate for the nation's top center. So that will definitely be another issue perhaps that Virginia Tech will have to deal with. Logan Thomas, he's tall. He's Cam Newton, only much less talented. I'm trying to think, who's the worst quarterback to ever play professional football? He's Cam Newton, but with the worst guy's skill set. He really has not been impressive throughout his career. I don't know why everybody was buying into him, the hype machine surrounding him coming into this season. Taj Boyd is easily the best quarterback in this league in my mind. But our D, I'll agree with Chris in the chat room, our D needs all the help they can get. So it's a good thing that Miller's out, and it's probably even better that a guy like Logan Thomas is the quarterback for the Hokies. Clemson will have a chance to get after him. Well, we got to get out of here pretty quick. Like we've got just a little over a minute here. But let's look briefly at the Atlantic Coast Conference standings right now. On the top of the Atlantic Division, that's right at 4-2 overall, but 2-0 in conference play, are your Maryland Terrapins.
Crab cakes and football. That's what Maryland does.
Crab cakes and football. Great line from Wedding Crashers. Florida State is number 2 at 3-1. Clemson is number 3 at 2-1 in conference play. Both of those teams have only one loss, the only two one-loss teams in the division. Clemson's followed by NC State, Wake Forest, and Boston College, 0-3 in conference play. And then over in the Coastal Division, it's Miami, followed by Duke, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. Those three, Duke, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, all tied at 2-1. Georgia Tech 1-3, and Virginia comes in at 0-3. A disappointing year so far for the Virginia Tech Cavaliers, but I tell you what, we do appreciate you all being here with us once again. The guys in the chat room were killing it. I don't know how long our reign on vocal will last. We have changed up the way we do the show now, which has consequently pulled our numbers down quite a bit, but it's been a great run at the top. But like I told you before, we've got some big news coming. Hopefully, we'll fill you in on that hopefully later on in the week. Tune in Wednesday night, 9 p.m. for TigerNet Talk. Until then, Tiger fans, as always, y'all take care now, and go Tigers!